This explains, it only goes for a few minutes, this explains quite well why I say legislation is not law, because it's not. Why? Law is self-explanatory. Law makes sense. Law has a reason for being there, other than revenue and other than creating criminals. Legislature creates criminals. Legislature has to be enforced. Law has its own way of enforcing itself. Okay? Legislature has to be explained in such a way. This is why, okay, see how I'm trying to explain this? This is why legislature is not law. Everybody knows that law is law. Everybody knows what is a good law. If it's not a good law, it's not a law at all. It's an enforcement. It's a legislature. It's a policy. It's a directive. It's an order. It's a mandate. Neither of them are a law. At best, they're a proposed law that we have not voted on yet. Therefore, it is not law. It's a proposal, nothing more. And you should question it. You have every right to question it. Why? You haven't been asked. You can't just run around saying this is a new law, that's a new law, this is a new law. Okay, explain why it's a law. Because it's been legislated. I didn't ask you for a fucking, because I said so, fucking reason of a bad parent. Thanks, Dad. Explain why it's a law.
And they openly said, we are concerned about women being misidentified as perpetrators. And they made it very clear this law is intended to target men.
This problem that we've got at the moment of more laws coming in to further villainise men primarily. I mean, let's just be blunt about it. It appears that is definitely the case, and particularly the way that we've talked about on the show in the past, the way that they're being implemented and policed is definitely targeting men. Let's have a little chat about these coercive control laws, because something new's happened in the past couple of weeks.
I mean, I've been interested in these coercive control laws for the last few years. Of course, they were introduced originally, about a year or so ago in New South Wales. Funnily enough, they went through in New South Wales, I think, a good 2 years ago, and then the feminists panicked because they realised that there was a risk that women would be charged. I mean, who's really good at emotional abuse? Who's really good at controlling their partner psychologically? Of course women are. We know exactly which buttons to press if you want to drive men crazy. And
well, if there is a difference between the sexes, Bettina, if men are the stronger sex physically, women are definitely the stronger sex in terms of emotional intelligence. And so, yes, you would think that laws like this involving psychological manipulation would actually result in women.
Lots of women being convicted.
Yeah.
And of course, and so the funny thing is in New South Wales, they passed the laws and then sat on them. They didn't enact them for a whole year. And they openly said, we are concerned about women being misidentified as perpetrators. And they made it very clear this law is intended to target men. I mean, they didn't say it in so many words, but what they said was we're rolling out, new members of the police force, particularly women, into police stations all over the state to make sure women don't get misidentified as perpetrators.
So in other words, we're definitely just going to target men on this one.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
That's policy.
And I don't know whether they actually enacted in Queensland, but they've gone through more recently in Queensland.
Yeah.
The wonderful thing is we've had the first 6 months now from our New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics has released the data on the first 6 months of coercive control, and they got one conviction.
Oh my God. Okay.
Millions of dollars. All these police being rolled out. And the point is, we're dealing with a crime that was invented. This behaviour was invented by an American psychologist. And he openly says, he looked around, he was worried that domestic violence was getting too complicated. because the evidence has been clear for the last 50 years, has been rolled out to show that women are just as likely to instigate what we think of as domestic violence, which is particularly the physical violence, as men are. Women are the ones who often slap the man's face or punch him or throw something at him. And then, of course, they're also the ones most likely to be hurt, because if the couple do get into a physical fight, she's the one who's more vulnerable. But this man, his name is Stark, he said, we need to find something else, and he invented coercive control. And he said, there's this pattern of behaviour that's, can lead on to physical violence, and it's all emotional abuse. And the trouble is, when the police, when the legislators went to work out what we're talking about, there are like 22 definitions out there. If you look on, in the psychology, in the literature on this, no one can really decide what we're talking about here. The police haven't a clue what this is, and so when it comes to not only identifying it, but working out how to prove it, they're absolutely floundering. And
these new psychological theories, these pop psychology theories of things like coercive control, you may be able to define a pattern of behaviour that is damaging and dangerous that you could define in such a way. But when you start to label things and promote them as if they're a kind of, identifiable set of behaviours, it gets very grey and it gets quite messed up, and people will start to manipulate and tweak it and spin it for their own political gain. And I guess that's what we are seeing here. And we're seeing police, as you said, being trained openly not to target women as potential perpetrators. By definition, that is two-tier policing on gender. That's what it is. You can't define that any other way than two-tier policing based on gender, and we're training it in to the police in the way that they mention it.
It's failing, because it's all too hard.
Let's have a look at how it's failing. Shall we look at that report you sent me?
The research.
Yeah, let's just share that now on the screen. So this
all
is...
these police out there looking for this stuff and trying to work out, it's like capturing a moth flying by in a net, isn't it? And no one knows what this thing really is, and let alone how exactly to define it. Because it includes, coercive control in theory includes, controlling behaviour, not allowing your partner to see the people they like to see, or isolating them from their families, and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so this is the quarterly report, December 2024, New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research, Coercive Control Monitoring Report for that quarter. So this is it says a new offence of coercive control commenced in New South Wales on the 1st of July 2024. The offence relates to abusive behaviours directed towards a current or former intimate partner with the intention to coerce or control them. Very vague. It captures repeated patterns of physical or non-physical abuse used to hurt, scare, intimidate, threaten, or control someone. So non-physical abuse, right? How are we going to define that? How are you going to identify that? How are you going to train police to be able to identify that? How are you going to be able to identify repeated patterns of that? It's all very, very challenging. First thing is on here is the number of recorded incidents of coercive control. There were 157 recorded incidents between July and December. So that's not huge in a population of what is New South Wales now, 7-8 million people.
What was that for a sec? Well, police know exactly what coercive control is, don't you? Threats of things that they can't do. When you go to court and they offer you plea deals, and if you don't accept the plea deal, you'll go to jail today for 3 years. Don't accept the plea deal and you walk out of the courtroom. It's coercive control. It's to intimidate under duress of psychological fear, psychological control. They do that a lot, don't they? Yeah, we have the authority to do that. I have the authority to use whatever force I deem necessary to make you submit to an examination. They fucking don't. I have the right to autonomy over my own body. That's called sovereignty. So let's not get shit twisted.
So as people going along, reporting it to the police, saying, okay, there's coercive control. Yep.
Right. So that's just the recorded instance, not whether it's actually occurred. The nature of the controlling behaviours, and they've got it listed by things like harassment, monitoring or tracking, threats or intimidation, shaming, degrading or humiliating, financial abuse.
I love the animal abuse, and there's a video showing what we're talking about. This is being mean to your girlfriend's dog.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. Harm to a child. Well, that's bloody serious. Thank God that's only one. All right. Yeah. It's not. Okay. All right. Incidents by region. I don't know why some of these are in yellow.
Go through all that.
Sutherland is like the highest rate per 100,000 at 3.8. Other places that are high.
Numbers, these figures.
Yeah, it's hardly even statistically significant, is it? I mean,
No, that's not.
It's not statistically
But
significant.
the only thing that really matters is the number of convictions, that they just cannot pin this stuff down.
Okay, so let's look at that. Legal action taken by New South Wales Police, July to December, 1.6.
Yeah.
Legal actions commenced. How do you commence 0.6 of a legal action? Oh, sorry, that's section 1.6. I misread that. Okay, sorry. Again, dark humour, you gotta laugh. All right, 3 charges have been laid. Of these charges, one was later withdrawn by the prosecution, okay? One was proven and received an intensive correction order, and one remains pending before the court. So in other words, one conviction so far.
One conviction. I've actually written about that. This magistrate has put, what do you call it when you have to wear a thing around your ankle?
An anklet, a bracelet, an electronic anklet.
Where they can track you.
Yeah.
So this guy who was convicted of coercive control now has to wear ankle bracelets.
Okay.
Ooh.
We have designed a new benchtop confocal microscope that removes complexity and offers a more affordable 3D.
But only one conviction.
It's a deprivation of his liberty if he's...
Yeah, that's pretty fine. Anyway, but it's very interesting to see where they're going to go from here. Because in Tasmania, years and years ago, there was a coercive control offence on the books, and there were no charges at all for years and years. And then the feminists got irate and said and bullied that when it went
Get out there and charge somebody! Give us a man! We want a skull!
Training the police to do a better job. I mean, I of course talk regularly to police officers around the country, and I've interviewed them on my YouTube. And the police are just tearing their hair out over this rubbish.
I think the sad thing in life, though, is that we have got to accept that there are certain things you can't police. That in life, you've got to hand justice over to life itself, or whatever you believe in. That we can't have a society where everything is policed.
You know what? How do you legislate morality? How do you legislate morality? You don't. It's something that is taught by a good father who's present and in the home, not one that's been dragged out of the home, who's made to look like the villain to his son. What do you think that this all is teaching our kids? Squeaky door, right behind me. What do you think this is teaching our kids? Son grows up, dad's a deadbeat, doesn't know his dad, he's kept away from the kids. Why? Because apparently he's psychologically cuckoo and damages his kids. Hey, my dad was psychologically cuckoo and like Jake the Muss, and he loved to play headfuck games. Okay, I was like nearly 13, about 13, when I found out that he wasn't allowed to take me up the bush and shoot me like a mangy dog that took to a farmer's sheep if I'd done something bad enough. Okay. My kids chose to live with me. I gave them all the choice under the sun. Honest choice, not standover choice, not psychological head fucks. I asked them, who do you want? If you want me to move out and your mum can move back in, fine. That's your choice. And don't feel bad for whatever choice you make, because I want you to make the right choice. So, you know, because there was also some great positive things I learned from that man. A work ethic, how to stand up for myself. How not to be to my kids. All sorts. I had a father at home. Greatest role model in the world? No. Did he give me a trade? Yes. Gave me a work ethic? Yes. All the positives I got from him. All the negatives I learned from him. You need fathers in the home. Also, the daughter thinks, dad's a deadbeat, and they also learn from this. What do they learn? Oh, whenever things are too hard, they can claim bullshit like this and probably even get a fucking payout. It's just a home wrecking tactic.
Because you wind up with false allegations, you wind up with false convictions, you wind up with... Life is inherently unjust to a certain extent, and some things are just going to have to go through to the keeper, if you know what I mean. And I think we have to draw a line. If we want to be a free, liberal society, we sometimes have got to say, ultimately it's not in the hands of human justice to be able to police or control some of this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to have police in our bedrooms with stopwatches and surveying us every 5 minutes saying, are you okay? Do you still consent? Is this coercive control or not? And having to have judgment panels to work out. Could you imagine having courts to decide whether every argument, adjudicating on every argument between couples? I mean...
Jeez, I'm Bob Cameron a bit now. Well, that's irony for you, isn't it? I need to coercively control you to get you to give me permission to come in, whether you like it or not, because we think there might be someone in your house at risk of being in harm. We heard from a neighbour that you're having an argument with your partner. She's not home. Yeah, well, we just need to come in and have a look. Coercive control.
This is the sort of
I wrote recently about actually a Brisbane woman approached me to say she'd been having a bit of stress with her husband and they'd had this fight. I mean, it wasn't a physical fight, it was and somehow someone reported this to the police, and they knocked on the door, and the couple said, "Oh, well, look, it's all right. We're having marital counselling. Nothing to see here. Go away."
Mind your own business, state.
The police are under orders. They're not allowed to they have to proceed with any domestic violence allegation. And so, I mean, this couple ended up spending thousands of dollars. They each had to get a lawyer. They go along to the magistrate hand in hand, and one magistrate, whatever it is, threw it out. And finally found someone who said, it's okay, we're going to remove all this. But it just
shouldn't go. That's like, it's absurd that it even got that far. I mean, It's just ridiculous that this could even get to a court. I mean,
and this is because,
or even, the poor police. I just feel for the police, and I wish the police union would step up and do something more, because they, I know that obviously it's a union, and there's control in there as well from the left and the feminists and everything, but. The police union used to be one of the more sensible unions that would just sort of stand up and say, well, hang on a minute, we've got to protect our members, first of all, from abuse.
Yeah, I'll pull you up on that. Police union, They don't need a union. They unionise themselves pretty well. Yeah, we looked into the matter and we found ourselves free of any wrongdoing. But however, your behaviour was atrocious. Pull the other one. It'll spit on your face. Sorry, crude law, no. If you don't like it, piss off. What we need is a completely unattached, separate, people-governed body where government keeps their head out of it, police have got no say in it, completely separate body of internal investigation of an external nature. Why? Because I just said why. Internal investigations, the whole internal investigation process is PR. It's all it is, public relations. Let's smooth that one over, sweep it under the rug. Oh yeah, we'll give them a severe reprimand. Go home for a couple of weeks with full pay and just so no one sees you around for a while. And when you come back, we'll probably move you from Burnie over to Ulverston for a while, just to keep you out of the head, just to, so no one sees you around, and she'll all be right, mate. Let's just try not to make the same mistake twice with your camera turned on. Come on. It's a farce.
Themselves are being misused and having their time. People don't become police to do this stuff. They become police to tackle real crime, and we've got plenty of that for them to tackle, thanks. We don't need this nonsensical ideological distraction.
The Queensland Police Union has actually had a go a few years ago and put in a submission to some inquiry on domestic violence where they said a lot of their members were being subject to false allegations as well. So they didn't raise the whole issue. I think they were probably jumped on from a great height after that. But anyway, there you go.
It's the machine. The machine.
See the bigger picture in that? That wasn't so much put in as this comes down to the bait and switch psyop within a psyop. There's all kinds of psyops within a psyop. There's a boy who cried wolf psyop, there's a bait and switch psyop, there's a bait and switch psyop within a psyop. I know, right? It all comes down to military intelligence and counterintelligence. That's sort of how I see it. Not how I think it is. Let me rephrase that. That's why I see it so obviously. Between having the social science, not just social studies, but social science, the science of social studies teacher, who was a senior detective when I was in high school, who taught us all sorts of memory exercises and stuff, and I smashed it. I killed it. Absolutely killed it. How? Thank you, Granddad, who taught me the military side of all the same stuff. I see the psyop within the psyop, and then I've got to try and find a way to explain it to you, because I have to remind myself, you people don't have the background that I have. You don't have that what's the word I'm looking for? That pre-introduction and foresight information to be able to go spot that, just put it there and be quiet for a little while and see what lines up with it, see what matches it, and go, okay, I see the agenda here. It wasn't that at all. That's just how they was using that for the purpose of this. Okay? Because of the whole coercion, the whole psychological coercion thing, right? The whole, what did they call it? Coercive control. Because of the Coercive Control Act, right, now any police officer can walk into any house claiming that they've had a report. You can't prove whether they have or haven't. And nor can they prove whether they have or haven't. All they have to do is claim that they was told it by somebody up the road, pulled them over and said they heard it walking past. Who was it? Just a witness. We've had a member of the public, a witness member of the public, walking past your house and heard a bit going on in here. It sounded like a fight and thought that we'd better take a look. So, yeah, and there's nothing going on here, and they already have, and they put 1 foot in your door. Yeah, we just need to come. You need to let us in to have a look if that's all right. You need to let us in and have a look if that's all right. So that's a loaded question. It's actually a demand posed as a question. Coercive control. That's how they're getting into everyone's houses without a warrant. Why? Maybe they just want to have a look around. Why? Maybe they've seen a car that they think might belong to somebody else at your house last week. They want to see if you've got a bong somewhere sitting on the table. They want to look around and see what sort of pictures you got on your wall, what sort of posters you got on the wall, well, how many people live in that house. Do you have kids living in that house? Is one of the rooms a little bit messier than the others? Is there a strange odour in the house? Because you can smell crack and you can smell pot. You can smell a crack pipe. You can walk into a crack house and you can just smell it. You can smell it sweating out of people's system. An officer doesn't need to take a swab. An officer doesn't need to do anything other than get a hair follicle, and that's not accurate within the day, but they can tell whether you've had any of anything or not from one hair follicle. One. Did I get one? No. A swab out of your ear. Right. With their glove on. Why do you think they wear gloves? They DNA test their gloves. They drug test their gloves. See the dirty little tricks they play? I've got to go put the chooks away.